Hello guys and welcome to a new Wargame video today by me, Vulcan. I'm back once again on Wargame and today I have a reasonably good game to show you. It wasn't like anything spectacular in terms of my own skill, but there are a few things I really liked about this game that I wanted to point out and I thought were worth showing. So that's why I chose this replay. I've been playing a lot to try and find a game for you guys. I honestly haven't been enjoying myself as much as I probably should have been, but I enjoy commentating, so that's hopefully what I'm going to keep doing. Now, in the future, just a thought, throwing it out there to all you Wargame fans, I may not record my own gameplays anymore. I might try and find replays to commentate upon. Whether or not you would like that, please let me know in the comments, because I do enjoy making and commentating on Wargame. I know a lot about it and I like to theory craft, but I'm not actually that good at playing the game. So I sort of know what should happen, but I'm not good at making that happen. And that's where I kind of fall off, and that's why I don't necessarily play it as much as I should anymore. Now, anyway, let's have a look at what I'm doing. Had a bit of issue at the start working out where I was going to go, because I am playing this with a couple of other people. Genjeff and Jester, they both joined me or invited me to play with them in a 10v10, and Genjeff, it wasn't his best game, but I'm not going to go on too much about that. We were just deciding between them who would go where, and Genjeff wanted me to come over on the right with him and Jester to help him take Juliet. Now, I was fine with that, except from when I saw that nobody else on the team was going to be pushing elsewhere. So, in the end, I decided to move my FOB there and keep my command vehicle over here, which I would then use to capture Gregory. Now, seeing there being a command vehicle here, which is Genjeff's, I assumed he was going to put that command vehicle into Gregory. So I decided to move my BRM 1K over to Dimitri, where the dude who was originally here, Fish, moved out his BRM, probably not realizing that there wasn't a second one in the sector. Now, it's definitely worth holding on to most of these sectors at the beginning of a game in Wargame, so I make sure to say that I'll cap it and I move a CV round to just do just that. But I do realize quickly that Genjeff is now moving his WD-43 all the way to Nicholas. Now, skirmishes break out on the left and right. You can see over here Genjeff's aircraft coming in absolutely napalm the crap out of this area, which was quite crazy. We've got the Berusas coming up. They're providing some AAA cover over these Black Hawks. And I actually haven't brought in anything other than a couple of CVs just yet. I'm waiting for an opportunity to use some of these side reinforcement points to bring in some men here and there. So let's just look out, see what happens. We've got this Humvee Tow 2 taking out some OSAs on the left. T-80Bs taking heavy hits, as most of these men are driving through smoke. Luckily, this BMP is actually covered by this smoke. Basically means that he won't be able to see anything there. But with us capturing this sector on the right, Jot, I decided to bring in Afghanskis because I see that they have Black Hawks in the area and lots coming in. And this was like the perfect move at this point. My Afghanskis absolutely tear to shreds their Black Hawks and Hueys, giving me tons of points at the beginning of this game. You can see even more coming over there. And I eventually bring in about 6 Afghanskis. They managed to take out all of these helicopters without losing a single unit. They do get stunned, but as soon as I get reinforced, it manages to allow them enough time to get out of that suppression and start firing again. And all of these transports that were originally used to bring in infantry that's now being destroyed are being destroyed themselves by my Afghanskis. So this gave me a huge number of points at the beginning. You can see I'm up to 211 points. That's just from these Afghanskis taking down all these helicopters. All the way up to 261 points from transport helicopters. Pretty mental. And I've still got all 6 Afghanskis alive. Now that, honestly, I can't say lasts very long. But it was fun while it lasted. And my Afghanskis unfortunately do die. But that technically is only 60 points. Actually, no, it's probably more than that. It's 120 points because they're 20 points each. And yeah, pretty awesome stuff there. So now it was just a matter of working out what to do next. Because with that last Afghansky dying to a Thunderbolt, I literally had to go ahead and make up my mind. So, what I decided to do is finally get our BRM 1K into Gregory. I also bring in some anti-air support in the form of Iglas and some Conkers to fill up these houses. Now in this deck, this is a really old deck that I made long ago. I did one of my first 10v10s with this deck, and it's basically a Russian Pax armored deck which has very, very powerful units. We got Conkers, Iglas, T-80Us, basically just think of all of the overpowered Russian stuff, and it's pretty much in this deck. So I've got the books, the decent Tunguskas, all that sort of stuff. And I really make good use of that later on. But here's my first little task force. T-55 AM2s with a T-80U for backup. Got a Tunguska. I wanted to buy a more, but I could only afford one, so I brought that in. And I've got this BRM-1K. Now that is intended for Nicholas, because the WD-42 that Gengift originally sent up looks like it's been destroyed at this point. I'm not exactly sure what happened to it, but either way it's not there anymore. So I basically thought I'd take the opportunity to capture it myself. Now meanwhile, over on the left, we got T-72s and T-55 AM2s facing off against US Marines in this forest here. This isn't the best idea because these US Marines, if they had any rockets left, they would deal significant damage to these T-55s, especially considering the T-55s, or at least one of them, is panicked and is causing them to take ages to reload, as you can see. Now I did bring in a Su-275 at this point. That's just because I was watching the right side and saw the Drakens and all of the air units that came in throughout this game. And I really wanted to attack them myself with my Su-275, which does have its own SEMAC radar missiles. The only trouble is the SEMAC radar missiles are only 7,000 meters on the Su-275, which isn't as long as units like the Tomcat, which I think eventually started coming on the field. So you can see over here, again, a Tomcat. And they're just so much better than most air units if you keep them at a distance. In dogfighting, I've easily shot them down before. So here I brought in 2 Tunguskas now, after my Afghanskis got destroyed. Unfortunately, this Wild Weasel's going to work on my Tunguskas, and doesn't really get itself shot down. We've got another Wild Weasel comes in and takes it out. And this has really left me pretty much disabled on the right side. So I decided to bring in some Urals to help get that back on its feet. Now this was the trouble throughout the game, although I tried to bring in loads of AA to counter their air spam. There really wasn't much I could do because all of the air spam kept taking out all of my AA. And you'll probably see that later on when I start to bring in books to deal with that. Now unfortunately, because I didn't turn off the radar weapons, the Wild Weasels came in and managed to take out the Tunguska that was left. That Nighthawk bomb probably would have killed it anyway had it not been taken out previously. But these Wild Weasels are very, very good, it seems, at taking out ground forces, and they have the anti-radar and infrared missiles that they need to dogfight other aircraft. So my forces are slowly getting over to Nicholas. We're starting to reveal some of the soldiers that were left in the town from the enemy. So some US Marines here which are flushed out by the napalm. My BMP 1Ps, they have motor Strelky in them. They're going to move up and release the motor Strelky and basically let them go seek out the enemy CV, because currently I've got my CV here. So a BRM 1K, and this is sitting in here to contest Nicholas. And the reason I'm doing that is to stop, because this is a reinforcement point, it stops the NATO reinforcing into Nicholas. Now I presumed the enemy CV would be somewhere over here, because they're not going to hide it on the other side of the town, because it would be pretty obvious if we managed to get a recon around the side here. So it's probably in this forest back here, or at least that's what I presumed. And this, yeah, like I said, the BRM's just contesting at the moment. As soon as my T-55s and BMP 1Ps get up, hopefully they can find and kill their enemy CV. But you can see here some more Skya Pehota firing against some Hevansmen. And the Hevansmen got Mauser M96s. The Moskaya Pehota, more elite troops, plenty of men there. Just going to overrun that squad, unfortunately for them. Over on the left, it's gone pretty well for them. They've managed to pretty much take full control of this area with the help of their T-62s. And they managed to take out M1 IP Abrams there in order to capture these HEMs. On the right though, it's a different story altogether. And I do bring an Su-24MP. Now, this was intended to bomb these anti-air units, these Veeks, and unfortunately it just ended up flying straight into an Eagle, so it got shot down pretty quickly. Now here you can see my Book M1 setting up. I have 3 of them. In between each I have 2 Urals, and these are there to obviously resupply the radar missiles of those anti-air. Over on this side, in the meantime, I've got SK-60Bs. I really like these planes. Coming in and taking out a couple of my T-55 AM2s. They basically have really high explosive missiles that blow up and stun tanks very, very easily. And they can also kill them if they have lower armor. But they're very useful for stunning tanks that are pressing onto your positions. So you can see my BMP 1Ps are now sitting here with my T-55 AM2s, while my motor Strelky are going to start moving over past the supply point. So with us losing our foothold in Jot, I've basically just left this line of air defense here, and the reason for that is you can see the amount of air units that they are using, and as soon as they fly anywhere near this back line, they're going to get targeted by my anti-air. And that's pretty much the first kill of this strategy. And meanwhile over here, my BMP 1P is using up their Conkers to try and take out some of these TGBs. Now these are just troop carriers, but always worth trying to take out the troop carriers before they can drop off their troops. Now over on the right you can see that a Wild Weasel comes in and does manage to take out one of my Book M1s. Pays for it with his life. See, he falls over and dies here off the map, but it did leave me quite vulnerable. Still, taking out another one there. There are 105 points each for the enemy, and my books myself cost 85 points, so I'm getting a little bit of profit per kill. But a nice napalm there from Genjeft leaves the infantry advance into this town blocked off and allows my BMPs to continue engaging the infantry that's left on the open out on the right. My Motorshoki managed to push around and find the enemy CV, which was where I thought it was going to be, and with that in place, my BRM-1K does capture the position. Now Fish, in the meantime, had brought up his own CV and left it sitting on the road. Not the best idea, but later on, noticing that, I do move out my BRM-1K. So my books here, getting another kill. I have a T-80U advance up on this hill. Unfortunately, it gets taken out by a jet, which then gets shot down by my books. My Urals run out of resupply to give to my books, and this leaves me extremely vulnerable. So I've taken out a lot of wild weasels now. My book M1 does manage to stun this eagle, rendering it pretty much useless. With a second shot, also manages to shoot that down. However, now I have 3 books with no missiles after it's fired off its last missile. This is a very bad position to be in, and I shouldn't have let it happen, because basically with all of this air around, I'm incredibly vulnerable. This right side literally was just like an air-to-air free-for-all throughout the entire battle, which was really cool, to be honest. You see here with the wild weasels kind of noticing that they're not being fired upon by AA anymore. I think they do manage to get a snipe here onto one of my units. There you go. One of my books getting taken out by this wild weasel 5. And unfortunately, it was the book that was being resupplied by Jester, who'd come over to help me out, thankfully. Unfortunately, it left these two still without any ammo, and I am trying my best to get Urals up to the front, replenish Urals, to resupply them, while my other Urals, which ran out, have gone back to get reloaded. Now over on the left here, pretty much a battle between Genja and Livid Orgono in the town, and he manages to secure it very nicely with all of these Hottesmech. This pretty much just leaves me and him to defend this with the BMP 1Ps, T-55s and the T-80U. However, on the right here, Ravens come in, my worst nightmare. They take out both of my radar AA that I have left, the 2 books. And this leaves me without any books. Now, I knew this would happen eventually if somebody did have anti-radar missiles, and it was a bit annoying, but I did have an alternative. Tunguskas, and that's why I started to bring it. Now Tunguskas, they can't fire as far as books, but generally they're just as effective at taking out air units. And a really good tip with the Tunguskas, I've mentioned it before and I'll mention it again, is to turn off the radar machine guns that they have, because those autocannons cause them to die more often than you tend to notice. Because they're radar cannons, that causes them to be able to be targeted by Ravens and anti-radar missiles. If you turn that off, they cannot be. And therefore they only use their Satclos AA missiles, which then are more effective at taking out air units anyway. So, probably worth turning them off even if you were trying to, or weren't trying to stop them from being anti-radared. Now over here in Nicholas, my T-80U does unfortunately waste a couple of his 80 gems firing upon units that are very cheap, like the trucks. Thankfully, due to Gem Jeff's SU-7Bs, brings in nice lag-inducing napalm to flood the valley with that, while my Motorshoki fight it out with the advancement. So you can see my new AA defensive line taking shape. 4 Tunguskas. These are the upgraded Tunguskas, with the better range versus helicopters and airplanes. As you can see, against airplanes 2,625 meters, against helicopters 2,800. And with their help managed to take out wild weasels and drakons. At this point in the game, the enemy have 15,664 points, and we have 10,466. So it seems as though we're going to lose this game at this point. It's going to be pretty hard to come back from that much of a deficit. However, I felt my own play was okay. It wasn't amazing. Obviously, losing all those books was not ideal. But something over here that I was toying with was pushing up T-80Us over this ridge to take care of a few of these APCs. Now, some of you may know that this is a very dangerous strategy. SDRFs are the overpowered Swedish autocannon armoured cars. Now, they managed to take out all, pretty much, of my Tunguskas. At least 3 of them at this point. And it left me with like pretty much no AA in this area. Now these ZU-23s are technically AA, but they're like, you know, trucks with flak cannons on the back of them. Not something I would really rely on. And with my last Tunguska, actually that's a T-80U being popped there. My last Tunguska taken out here, probably by an STRF. RV, just leaves me completely vulnerable. So I have 2 T-80Us, managed to fortunately take out these STRVs, which are the Swedish tanks. But what am I left with? I've lost my line once again of AA. And I lost a T-80U. Genja, after doing another nice showing of napalm spreading. That is how you make fire. And on the left here, I pretty much don't focus on it for the rest of the game. I'm really concerned about what's happening on the right now. So the enemy now has 18,000 points. We're stuck on about 13,000. And I've decided to go all in, and pretty much I've got a book M1, and the reason I've got now a book M1 is because people have since left and it's given me more access to units. So I've brought in the book M1, the last of my 2K22M Tunguskas, and now I've got only 2K22 Tunguskas to rely on. And these are like the downgrade from the 2K22Ms. But still, they're okay. They can pull their weight. Now what you will see in this game is me probably making the most stupid mistake in Wargame Airland Battle that I've ever done. And the reason for that is because obviously I haven't played it much, but I did realise while I was making the mistake, and I obviously start explaining it before it happens just so that you have an idea. They have these STRF 9040s. They also have the VEEK 40s, which are twin autocannon AA. Now both of these APCs and AAs have kinetic rounds, which means when you get closer to them, they deal more damage. What this means is that if you put a T-80U very close to them, kinetic round will hurt very much. And because it's an autocannon with a high rate of fire, it's going to do a significant amount of damage to the T-80Us. Now you can probably see where this is going. Fish here decides to bring up T-80Us. as well, to complement my own 2 T-80Us and the 2 more that I have coming onto the battlefield. Let's see what happens when he tries to attack. So, just merrily driving up the side of a hill past lots of resupply, helicopters and dead things. Yeah, what could go wrong? I'm in this T-80U. Yeah. Unfortunately, kinetic autocannons at close range are very, very powerful. Fish, unfortunately, doesn't realise this. His T-80U is taken down to 1 health in a matter of seconds. With an HDGM from the left side here, the PVGRP RBS squad does help in taking that out. Now, before he can move forwards, I try and put my T-80Us over the front here. Poorest mistake of my life. With the help of the PVGRPs and the Panzer SkyT, they get them down low, and the kinetic autocannons of the Veeks tear apart my T-80Us. Look at that. Insane power. You should never let that happen, because technically these Veeks are worth 40 points each. They just managed to take out a 170 point tank just for nothing, pretty much. I took out a few units here and there, a few SDRVs and so on, but in the end, totally not worth it. And Fish also lost a couple of his T-80Us and was not very happy about it at all. And that was about it for this game. A couple of things that I just really wanted to point out, especially that last one. Don't make the same mistake as I did, because that's really hurts, and it's pretty embarrassing. And I was kind of like, should I show this, should I not? Because obviously making that kind of mistake isn't great, but then you guys learn from it, and I learn from it. If I'm analysing my own replays, I like to see what I do, and I like to talk about it, and I like to talk about what other people do and why they do it. And I want to get into really talking about other people's replays as well as my own, and that's why I suggested what I did at the beginning of the video. So, 25-minute game exactly there. The enemy team won, so I actually lost this game technically. I got 3,016 kills and 2,765 losses. Not great at all, really. You want to be going for like a 2-to-1 KD, but in a lot of ways it's much better than many of the other people on my team, so I think I did reasonably well. Either way, hopefully you guys enjoyed looking at Wargame once again. Tell me what you think about the idea of me commentating on other people's replays, because obviously I don't play as much as I probably should. I think that would be a good way to keep up content for you guys and allow me to make more. So it's a win-win really, and it will be more variety, and I'll be able to analyse what other people do. So yeah, tell me what you think. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.